and welcome to Challenge Solutions. My name is Caitlyn, and in this video, I'll be providing a tutorial on preparing a MacBook for trade-in using Voiceover. My 2017 MacBook Pro has started giving me some pretty serious issues, so I've decided to go ahead and trade it in and upgrade to one of the new MacBooks with Apple's M1 chip. I'm going to be taking you guys along on the process of wiping all my data off this thing and reinstalling a clean copy of macOS to return it to an out-of-box state and return it to Apple so I can get some trade-in value for it. For some context, this is a 15-inch 2017 MacBook Pro with a 2.9 GHz Intel Core i7 processor, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage. It's the one with the butterfly keyboard and the touch bar, and it is currently running macOS Mojave. I realize Mojave is rather outdated. A lot of the apps that I used on a daily basis did not get optimized for Catalina very quickly, so I've been chilling on Mojave, and that is what we are going to be wiping and reinstalling today, since there's not really any point in updating to Catalina when I'm just going to trade it in the near future. Before you begin this process, you need to back up your data. I recommend running a Time Machine backup to an external hard drive so you have essentially a clone of your system. Even if you don't think you have anything important saved on your Mac, I recommend running a Time Machine backup because you never know what you're going to need at some point in the future. I have a 1 terabyte external hard drive that I use for my Time Machine backups. I just plug this thing in once a week or so and it runs a Time Machine backup so that I always have an up-to-date clone of my system. This is my preferred method of backing up. If you guys want a tutorial on how Time Machine works, I would be happy to do one. However, it is a fairly straightforward process if you just follow the prompts in System Preferences. There are a couple methods for clean installing macOS. You can use Internet Recovery, which is what Apple recommends in the set of instructions they give you when you initiate a trade-in. I've done it a couple of times. It is fairly straightforward and fully accessible with Voiceover. However, that is not what we're going to be doing today. My Wi-Fi is not the most reliable thing in the world, and I would rather avoid dealing with the very likely possibility that it will drop in the middle of the reinstallation process and cause serious problems. So we're going to be putting the macOS Mojave installer on a thumb drive and clean installing it from that thumb drive. So in order to follow this process, you're going to need a thumb drive. Apple recommends at least 12 gigs. I believe this one is a 32 gig, but I could be wrong. It could be more. We will find out when I insert it into my MacBook. You're also going to need to make sure the thumb drive is formatted for the Mac. Most thumb drives come pre-formatted for Windows, so you're gonna need to format it in Disk Utility before you can begin this process. This one happens to already be formatted for the Mac because I've used it for this process before, so I'm not going to be walking you through that today. If you want a tutorial on it, I can do one, but if you just look up how to format it, it's a fairly straightforward process. I will put a link in the description of this video if you need to know how to do that. The process of clean installing Mojave and Catalina is a little different. I will do my best to point out where they differ. It's not very different, it's mostly the same. There's just a little bit of difference in the commands that you're going to use and what you do when you are erasing your disk. If you are running Big Sur, however, at this point in time, you should not follow this process. Bad things will happen. This is being recorded on December 4th, 2020. I'm not sure when it will go up on the channel, but at this point in time, you shouldn't follow this process with Big Sur. It will destroy your system. So wait on Apple to release instructions for doing this with Big Sur. Don't follow this tutorial if you are running anything later than Catalina. The process of clean installing macOS can look pretty intimidating, especially if you're not familiar with terminal and or recovery mode. However, it actually is a pretty straightforward process if you just follow the instructions and haven't done anything out of the ordinary with your system. It is also fully accessible with Voiceover, despite a few quirks that we will get into as I begin this tutorial. With all that being said, I'm going to transition to a screen recording of my MacBook and get started with the process of creating a bootable installer for macOS Mojave on my thumb drive.
Safari, how to create bootable installer for macOS, Apple support window, and level 2, what you need to create bootable installer.
Okay, so now if you are sighted or semi-sighted and watching this, you should be looking at the web page on how to create a bootable installer on Apple's website. We're going to need a couple links and terminal commands off of this page. I will link this in the description of the video so you can access it if you need it. At the top of this page, you'll see that it has all the prerequisites of things that you're going to need. It says you're going to need a thumb drive of at least 12 gigs and a installer for one of the macOS versions. We're going to start by grabbing the installer for macOS Mojave, so I'm going to VO arrow to that link and click it.
And place. Heading level 2. Download macOS. List 2 items. Roll it. Download 1 of 2. Link. macOS Mixer. Link. macOS Tower Lina. Link. macOS Mojave.
That's the one we need, so we'll VO space on that.
Press link. macOS. Loading. Empty. App Store. macOS Mojave collection.
And you heard it open the App Store, so let's see if we can find the download button.
macOS Mojave icon. macOS Mojave. Utilities. Apple button. Get button.
We'll click the Get button.
Press Get button. System preferences. Software update window. Toolbar. Software update image. Finding update. Not in dialog. 4. Window. Software update. Not now button. macOS download button. Other image. macOS Mojave. Are you sure you want to download macOS Mojave 10.14.6? Not now button. Download button.
Yes, I would like to download macOS Mojave, so we'll VO space on download.
Software update image. Downloading new updates. 1% progress indicator.
Alright, it says it's downloading new updates and we have our progress counter. This may take quite a while, so through the magic of video editing, I'm going to spare you guys the misery of watching this download, and we'll skip ahead to when the next interesting thing happens and we can start making our installation thumb drive.
Install macOS Mojave. Install macOS Mojave window. macOS Mojave has keyword focus.
Okay, so as you heard, it just opened the macOS Mojave installer. This is not what we want. We do not want to click continue here. We're going to command Q this thing away and proceed with the process of creating our installation thumb drive.
Software update window. Toolbar.
We're also going to quit system preferences.
App Store window. Get button.
And we're going to go ahead and quit the App Store just so I don't have 9 million windows open.
Safari. How to create a installer for macOS. Apple support window. Visit link. macOS Mojave.
Now for the fun part. We're going to grab the terminal command for create install media off of this web page. Make sure you get the right command for the particular version of the operating system that you're trying to install. In this case, we're going to be using the command for macOS Mojave. So I will VO arrow to that and we're going to copy it. I'm actually going to dump it into a text edit file so that I can just command A to select all and copy it over. But if you want, you can grab it just off of this web page.
Heading level 2. Use that create install media command in terminal. List 3 items. 1. Connect USB flash drive or other volume you are using for a bootable installer. 1 of 2. Open terminal, which is in the utilities folder in application folder. 2. 3. Type or select the following commands in terminal. Please assume that the installer is in your application folder and my volume is the name USB flash drive or other volume you're using. If it has a different name, replace my volume. Name is command with the name of your volume. Free. And replace. Mixer. Star. Sudo Catalina. Star. Sudo application install macOS Mojave. Star. Sudo application install macOS Mojave intensive resources reinstall media volume volume volume. Sudo application install macOS Mojave intensive resources reinstall media volume volume. Selected. Copy. Text edit. Text edit. Open window. Listing table. No selection. No. Down. Edit text. My volume. Okay, so I have the command pasted into text edit. At this point, we're going to go ahead and connect the thumb drive that we're going to be putting the installer on. Alright, I've connected my thumb drive, so let's go to the desktop and make sure that it showed up correctly. That is my thumb drive. You'll notice that it's called my volume. The terminal command that we're going to use is going to look for a thumb drive called my volume. So you either have the option of inserting the name of your particular thumb drive into the terminal command in place of my volume, or renaming your thumb drive to my volume. I've chosen to rename my thumb drive. If you need to rename your thumb drive, you can do so by just pressing enter on the name of it. My volume.
And it opens a text box and you can just type in the new name. So mine's already named my volume. We're going to hit escape.
Escape button. My volume.
Now it is time to open Terminal. Terminal is located in your Applications folder and then your Utilities folder. So we're going to open Applications with Command-Shift-A.
Applications. Now Applications window. List table. No selection.
We'll interact with that.
Windows new table. Lockdown browser application.
We're going to look for Utilities.
Utilities folder. Expand. 18 items closed.
And go down to Terminal.
Terminal application.
We're going to VO space to open that.
Open front right. Terminal application. Terminal. login. Wednesday, November 25th, 13, 24, 36 on console. Caitlyn macOS Pro. Delivering master dollar. Move on.
Alright, we have our terminal window open. We'll Command Tab back to text edit and copy that command that I dumped into a blank text edit file.
Finder. Text edit. Text edit. Untitled header text.
We're just gonna Command A to select all. You heard it select all of that command. We're gonna copy it with Command C.
Copy.
Now we'll Command Tab back to terminal and paste it in.
Terminal. Caitlyn
We're gonna paste. And I'm going to hit return, and it's probably gonna ask me for my password since we are using a sudo command.
Password.
Alright, I'm gonna type in my password and hit enter.
New line. Ready to start. To continue, you need to erase the volume /volume. If you wish, you can type Y, then press return.
Alright, it's telling you that it's going to erase the contents of the thumb drive. That's fine. We're gonna erase it and replace it with the macOS installer. So I'm gonna hit Y.
Erase 20%.
And it's going to show you a progress counter as it is erasing and copying files. It should say that it's done when it's done. So again, through the magic of video editing, I'm going to spare you watching all of this, and we will jump to the next interesting thing.
100% making this movable. Copying files. Install the
Alright, so you heard it say that the installable media is now available, and it gave the path. That means that this part of the process is done. We can go ahead and quit terminal, and we'll go to the desktop
group.
and look for the volume name.
Install macOS Mojave volume.
And you can see that the thumb drive that was previously named My Volume has now been renamed to Install macOS Mojave. That means that this process was successfully completed, and the macOS Mojave installer is now on our thumb drive. Now, if you are preparing this MacBook for trade-in like I am, you're gonna want to go ahead and deauthorize all of the things that need to be deauthorized before you proceed with erasing your data. Since I'm running Mojave, I'm going to have to deauthorize iTunes and sign out of iMessage. If you're on Catalina or later, you'll have to sign out of iCloud and all the things, so go ahead and do that next. I will spare you the process of watching me deauthorize iTunes and all the other things on here that need to be deauthorized from this computer, and we'll jump straight to the process of erasing the data and reinstalling this clean copy of macOS Mojave. I'm going to go ahead and transition to camera mode. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to screen record while I'm in recovery mode, erasing my disk and clean installing Mojave. So if you are sighted or semi-sighted and trying to follow this, your view of the screen is probably about to get a lot worse. I'm going to have to use my phone camera to try to record a video of my laptop screen, and it's probably not going to be good. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and transition to camera mode, and we're going to get started with the next step in this process, which is going to be erasing my data and clean installing macOS Mojave. Okay, we are now in camera mode. If you are trying to follow this visually at all, I do apologize. I know this is not the ideal situation, but a phone camera pointed at the laptop screen is the best I can do. It may not even be in focus, but the point of this demonstration is to be able to follow this auditorily with VoiceOver. So if you need a more visually accurate representation of what's happening, you can definitely find other tutorials that are done from a visual perspective instead of with VoiceOver. Right now you are looking at the desktop of my MacBook. I'm going to go ahead and shut it down, and we are going to commence with the process of erasing all the data on it and clean installing macOS Mojave. So let's shut this down.
Menu bar Apple menu about this apps sleep restart shut down ellipsis. Shut down authentication. If you cancel shut down default button.
The first thing we're gonna do once it's shut down is reset the NVRAM. So we're gonna push the power button and then hold down Option, Command, P, and R for about 20 seconds. I'm not sure what kind of VoiceOver feedback we will get since I've never done that with VoiceOver on, but we shall find out together. So I'll push the power button and we'll hold down these keys. Go ahead and release. Hopefully it did it.
Login window.
And we have VoiceOver. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this back down again, and we are going to enter recovery mode and erase all the data using disk utility. Now, once this shuts down, to enter recovery mode, I'm going to hit the power button and then hold down Command and R. You do get VoiceOver in recovery mode, but you should know that we're not going to get the normal Alex VoiceOver voice. The only VoiceOver voice that runs in recovery mode is Fred. And Fred sounds rather terrifying, but he gets the job done. So prepare to meet Fred. This is shut down, so we'll go ahead and push the power button and hold Command R. And I usually hold this for several seconds. There's not really a good indicator of when to let it go. Okay, so I'm going to release now, and we'll Command triple click for VoiceOver.
Language user, window, language user table, row 1 of 40, English, select as keyboard focus.
And we have Fred. We are now in recovery mode with VoiceOver on, and I have Braille output as well. We're going to click continue because I needed to speak English.
macOS utilities, window, application selection table, no selection as keyboard focus.
And you heard that we are now at the macOS utilities screen. We're going to go to disk utility.
Application selection table, reinstall macOS icon, image, get help lineup, disk utility icon, image.
We'll hit continue.
Continue button, application selection disk, macOS based system, eject button.
We're going to go to Macintosh HD. That is my startup disk.
Disk selection table, macOS based disk images, standard, Macintosh HD, level 2.
Okay, I have Macintosh HD selected. Now that that's selected, we are going to erase this disk. So you're going to jump to the top of the screen where there's a toolbar.
Toolbar,
Interact with that.
and toolbar, view. Your code, add APFS volume button, delete APFS volume button, volume. First page button, partition button, erase button.
And we're going to click erase. Note that this is the point of no return. It's going to wipe out everything on the Mac. So if you haven't backed up your data, you should definitely do so now.
Press erase, dim button, format, APFS, top button,
Okay, that is correct. We need it to be APFS.
cancel button, erase button,
And we're going to confirm that we want to erase it.
collapsed disclosure triangle, closing dialog, 0% progress indicator, erasing Macintosh HD, creating Macintosh HD.
So it said it's erasing Macintosh HD and creating Macintosh HD. So it's going to wipe this out and just make a blank drive called Macintosh HD. And we have a progress indicator.
100% progress indicator,
Oh, it's already at 100%.
collapsed disclosure show details, done, default button,
And we'll click done.
disk selection table, macOS based system, eject button.
Okay, now that we have erased our disk, we're going to go ahead and quit disk utility and begin reinstalling a clean copy of macOS.
macOS utilities, window,
So I just quit that with Command Q. Now we're going to connect our thumb drive. I do want to quickly mention that if you are reinstalling macOS Catalina or later, the process is a little bit different. Before you do what I just did and erase Macintosh HD, you may have another thing in your internal volumes list called Macintosh HD data, and you will need to delete that before you erase Macintosh HD. With that being said, let's go ahead and interact with this applications list, and we're going to go to reinstall macOS.
application select, get help line, reinstall macOS icon, image.
On interact and click continue.
Continue button, application selection table, roll to a phone, install macOS Mojave, install macOS Mojave window.
That is correct. We want to install macOS Mojave.
To set up the installation of macOS Mojave, click continue button.
We'll click continue.
Press continue, a copy of the license will be saved and
Okay, we're going to click agree to this thing that I didn't read.
disagree button, reward agree button.
And we're going to click agree again.
Select the disk area to install macOS Mojave.
Okay, it's wanting us to select the disk on which to install macOS Mojave. So I'm going to click Macintosh HD.
Grid 1 item selected. Macintosh HD 498.73 gigabyte 3, group 102.
Okay, so I've selected Macintosh HD.
Back button, install button,
And I'm going to click install.
0.1%.
And now there is a progress indicator. This may take a while. I'm not going to make you guys sit through this entire progress counter. I'm going to jump cut ahead through the magic of video editing, but it may take a while, and you'll know it's done when Siri starts talking to you and tells you how to enable VoiceOver to begin setting up your Mac as though it's out of the box. You can probably hear that the fan has turned on and this thing is emanating quite a lot of heat. Your Mac may do that. I believe we're probably restarting, and Siri should be coming on in the near future to greet us and take us through the setup process.
macOS contains a built-in screen reader called Voiceover. If you know how to use Voiceover, press the Command key while you press Touch ID 3 times at the right end of the touch bar. To learn how to use Voiceover to set up your Mac, tap Escape at the left end of the touch bar.
Okay, so that actually took quite a while, and there was a stretch where we didn't have VoiceOver feedback, where there was just a progress counter on screen as it rebooted and finished its installation. But as you just heard, Siri appeared and told us that we could now turn on VoiceOver if we needed that. Once you hear this greeting, that means that the macOS installation has finished and it's been returned to an out-of-the-box state and is ready to be shipped back to Apple as a trade-in, or you can continue with the setup process if you were just clean installing to have a fresh start on your Mac. I am going to trade this in, so I'm going to go ahead and shut this down as is without continuing the setup process so that it will be in an out-of-the-box state. That concludes this tutorial on clean installing macOS using VoiceOver. If you have any questions or suggestions for future content, please leave them in the comments below or send us an email via the contact form on challengesolutions.org. Please give this video a thumbs up so the YouTube algorithm continues to know we exist, and subscribe to the Challenge Solutions blog, podcast, and YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching.